Morning everyone. It's been so hot, hasn't it? My face looks like a beetroot. But I've found it too hot to go outside till late evening. And then I feel I've missed out on the beautiful days we're having. And we should be in Nigeria now. We should have flown out last Monday. We got all the flights booked and everything. But obviously it was cancelled because of the COVID-19. So we'll be going, hopefully, later this year. But speaking with my friend in Nigeria yesterday, I found out that we would have experienced lower temperatures there than we have here these past couple of days. Well, I've had a difficult couple of days, and I hope you don't mind. You know, these are thoughts for the day and things that have impinged on me, or things that I've thought about more often than not come out in these thoughts for the day, and maybe that's what it's about really. But I've had a difficult couple of days, mostly self-inflicted. Some of you will know that I have a keen interest in American politics, and that I read a great deal around the current political and social situation there. You know, I find it fascinating, and I've been to the States lots of times. I find it a fascinating place to be, and it was with that interest that led me to conduct a bit of an experiment. I joined a couple of religious right Facebook pages just to see what sort of conversations take place there. I'd read a number of books about these sorts of issues. Anyway, I made one or two comments just questioning some of the views that were being expressed. I was polite. I asked simple questions. There was nothing, I wasn't abusive or anything. And I wasn't prepared for the backlash, because very quickly I had responses from a number of the page's members, and they were far from complimentary, to say the least. I was called the Antichrist. It's news to me. Didn't know I had such power. I was threatened with being shot. I had a picture of a hangman's noose sent to me. Many questioned my intelligence. Some said that the devil had sent me. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that these sorts of views don't exist, but they actually shook me to the core, because, it was, to me, it was a contact with me. So I wasn't reading about it from a third-person perspective. And I felt a little shaky since, and it wasn't that I was personally attacked. I can cope with that. But the issue for me was that these people were Christians and held these views. And I couldn't square those responses with anything that I understand about the Christian gospel. And one man, and this is really concerning stuff, one man told me that if Donald Trump doesn't win the election in November, that he was part of a 20 million strong armed militia that was going to take over the country by force, and they would take no prisoners, and they would install Trump in his rightful place. That's a really disturbing thing to hear in a democratic society. And my compassionate self wants to understand how these views are arrived at. What life events, what influences cause people to think and respond in that way. But whatever the reasons, I could never see those attitudes being compatible with my faith. Now, these may be minority views, but it's a sizable minority. And it just feels to me that Jesus has been hijacked in so many ways to justify a creed of hatred and greed. And it genuinely puzzles me and troubles me. And in connection with that, really, I've been interested in people's responses to the Black Lives Matter movement, and one of the common responses is to reply with, "Well, all lives matter," which seems to miss the point somehow. And sometimes people will deliberately miss the point, or sometimes people fall into that because they haven't thought it through. They haven't thought beyond the immediate. And I can understand that. But Black Lives Matter isn't saying that all lives don't matter. Far from it. But if that is how some of us choose to read it, that's how some people read it. And it's like, what about me? What about me? But these are real issues, and we can choose to respond compassionately and humbly, or we can feel personally offended and respond defensively. And as I said in a previous thought for the day, we need to take a step back to listen and learn, and then base any actions or any viewpoints on reflection of that new learning. We can't shut our hearts and minds from these issues. We can't ignore them. We need to look at our history, our own prejudices, and those prejudices may be buried very deeply. You know, I was brought up in a period of the British Empire, albeit it was starting to be dismantled. But I grew up with the thought that my country always behaved fairly and justly, that it was always the foreigner who was the bad one, who was the rotten one, the rotten apple. And it was perpetuated by films I watched. I mean, if you look at just war films, and I enjoyed like late 40s and 1950s war films, but I have to look at them in a different way now. But, you know, we were the plucky, always fair-minded side, and the Germans were very cruel or stupid. And I understand that. I understand why that was. Why that was portrayed in that way. But when people of a different colour started to be seen on the streets of where I lived, I was wary of them. I heard horrible stories about them, lots of urban myths about them. And I soaked that in, like many of us probably did. We soaked it in. We'd been brought up in a particular societal framework. And when statues have been pulled down, and I hear some saying, "Oh, you can't deny history," but we have to look at it in another way. And I'm not saying we've got to go out and pull statues down, but we have to look at those statues in another way, because some of those statues glorify people who have created misery and injustice. And by glorifying those statues, that is the denial of history. It's the denial of the history of millions of people. We shouldn't forget that history. But we should have a more holistic view of history. And it's a long and painful journey, isn't it, to confront the past and its injustices. And it's an even bigger challenge to acknowledge the injustices that continue today. But I think we need to know and understand both. We need to know our place in that. It doesn't mean, as a white person, I have to be guilty for being white, because that's another thing that people throw out. We're not being asked to feel guilty because we're white. We're being asked to look at some complex issues honestly and humbly. And all that can get lost in violence, in the way things are reported, the political viewpoints of different people, those who might shout the loudest. But we need to look at it. And I no longer believe that my country has always behaved fairly and justly. We have a long and painful history. It's not all glorious. I no longer look at people with a different skin colour, a person from another place or another faith with suspicion. I can see films that I used to watch through a different eye now. But that doesn't mean I don't love my country. Far from it. But as a Christian, I want justice for all. I do want all lives to matter. But we have to address the issues raised by Black Lives Matter. If we're going to really believe that all lives matter, we have to address those issues. And Jesus calls us to be compassionate. And to be so, sometimes we have to have humility to learn from those who suffer, to try and walk as much as possible in the other person's shoes. I don't think that is totally possible, but I think that's part of the empathetic response that we so badly need to these difficult situations. And I feel as a Christian church, we need to be tackling these difficult issues in a loving and compassionate way, that we shouldn't shy away from them. We certainly are called by Christ not to ignore them. But we need to steer clear of those sorts of responses that I met on my Facebook experiment. I know my thoughts for the day are getting more serious as time goes on. I don't know whether that's a reflection of the state of my mind. Maybe. But anyway, I'll speak to you soon, and it would be great to see you all soon. Things are moving. Things are getting a little more hopeful. And take care of yourselves, and God bless. Bye-bye.